What's going on, everybody? I hope you're having a great day and welcome back to 319 Sports. I am your host, Ian Fleischman, and today we're going to be covering Antonio Brown's Antics, the Timeline, Part 1. You can find Part 2 shortly after this is uploaded on Broshmo's channel. Broshmo is a NFL slash college football YouTube channel. He uploads some Madden 20 gameplay too. You can also check out some of his older gaming videos, but he's mainly football now, and he makes some great content. It's some of the top-notch stuff you can find on YouTube. He's just very highly underrated. But without further ado, let's jump into the video.
They turned the Browns over 3 times. Antonio Brown! He is a one-man wrecking crew! Touchdown, Steelers! And the somersault to boot. He nails it.
3rd and 4. And Roethlisberger has an open target. It's Brown. And he's across for the touchdown. His first career touchdown reception.
Anything else you can do. Just physical, nasty, tough football.
Here they are, 2nd and 4. And dancing, waiting, throwing, and the catch is made by Brown. Touchdown. Yards to Antonio Brown.
But AB is the first player I've ever seen on that level. Not just he potentially may do something, but he does that thing maybe as well as anyone who's ever done it every single year, no matter what. And I'm still sitting here at this point saying, is it worth it?
It's incredibly distressing to watch Antonio Brown, as far as I'm concerned, deteriorate as a person before our very eyes. Now, maybe he was always this way and the Pittsburgh Steelers saw it, but we didn't. It wasn't like they were mandating that he practice due to the bad feet or due to the controversy and the friction over the helmet. But his willingness to just not show up or to just leave, figuratively speaking, taking his ball and running home, is utterly ridiculous. It's childish, and it has no place in professional football.
And Texans safety Justin Reed. Bear in mind, this guy's on an entirely different team. But he tweeted, I respect his game, but I can't wait to smash this dude. Speaking of AB, no need for that. And Rams safety Eric Weddle responded, no need for that, showing true colors right here. No respect for this dude.
If you think back to that game against the Saints, Juju Smith-Schuster is on the sideline crying about the fumble, crying about maybe having lost the postseason opportunities for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what is Antonio Brown doing? He's smiling and taking pictures with Michael Thomas. You know why? Because he went off that day. He killed Marshawn Lattimore. He had 2 touchdowns because he's about stats. He's about money. And he's showing his true colors of not being a good teammate. And whether this is controversial or not, I really don't care. And now finally showing y'all that he's just not a good human.
So what I said was, before Antonio got his deal, we offered Mike Wallace a contract. Coach T had already told me that if Mike Wallace didn't accept this contract, they were going to offer Antonio Brown a contract. He was 2 years into the league. He had 1,000 yards receiving the year before, had been to a Pro Bowl as a returner. So he's walking by, and I said to myself, I'm talking to Coach Gary Guimont, strength coach. I said, when y'all give him his money, you're going to create a monster. So coming into the next practice, he just got his money. He cusses out Dick LeBeau, right? Coach LeBeau, somebody who Troy, myself, James Ferrier, all respected so much that anything he ever said, there was never a reply, right? He says he's the franchise. He says you can't touch me. He's talking to...
Now, the first episode of Antonio Brown showing a different side of himself was at the 2012 Steelers training camp. Ryan Clark told the strength coaches that if Antonio Brown got paid, they would create a monster out of him. And just for context, Ryan Clark was the safety for the Steelers from 2006 to 2013, but now he is signed with ESPN as a football analyst. After Ryan Clark issued this warning, it started to heat up more. Apparently, at that practice, Ryan Clark and Antonio Brown almost got into a fight. Antonio's problem, in my opinion, began this day. And it's not because of the fight. I believe it began because Antonio Brown started yelling at Dick LeBeau in the defense. He was yelling, "Don't touch me. I'm the franchise." That right there was the beginning of the Mr. Big Chest mentality. Now, before I go any further, I just don't want it to get confused. I'm not saying he's not a talented player. Antonio Brown is one of the best players of this generation. He works very hard, and his stats show how good he is. However, Antonio Brown is not a good guy. He's not a good leader. He's not a good friend. He's not at all selfless or loyal, and all of his actions show that. The next event I found was in 2015. According to Dale Lawley on Twitter, Antonio Brown said Heath Miller took him aside on the sideline. Heath told him not to complain about not getting the ball. In my opinion, Heath Miller is one of the best team players to ever play the game. He was selfless, and everything he did was for the better of the team. At one point, I even recall Ben Roethlisberger stating that Heath Miller was one of the best teammates that he's ever had. All that to say that I believe you had to be acting very childish or causing a scene for Heath to pull you aside and address you like that. And after that little event with Heath Miller, honestly, it got quiet for a while for Antonio. It didn't seem like anything was going wrong. Then there were tantrums that Brown started throwing on the field and on the sideline. I should also note that Heath Miller was not on the team at this point. In the midst of all this, though, the next big event would unfold in this timeline. On January 16th, 2017, Antonio Brown live streamed on Instagram in the locker room. A lot of people were just saying, like, okay, big deal, right? Well, here's the catch. Not only was it very irresponsible, but it was in the middle of head coach Mike Tomlin speaking with players post game. All football players know you need to give your coaches undivided attention whenever they're speaking, especially in the post game team meetings. A lot of trash talking and expletives was said by Mike Tomlin, and it was caught by Antonio's live stream. Mike Tomlin apologized for the occurrence. Antonio Brown apologized publicly. Then he was hit with the fine. The fine was $10,000, and, it was a dumb move. But it seemed like he had learned from it. However, like in most cases, there was more to it than met the eye. Facebook, at the beginning of the 2017 season, apparently paid Antonio Brown $244,000 to produce content on their platform. And it seemed like at the time, he made this big mistake. He got hit with the fine. Can we move on now? And that's what we did. On to the next thing. And what came next? If you guessed the 2017 offseason contract extension for Antonio Brown, you were definitely correct. Here are the figures for it. $72 million over 5 years. There was a $19 million sign-on bonus and a $14.5 million annual salary. At the time, that made him the highest paid receiver in the league. Although, it doesn't look like he was grateful for it in the long run. Events were sure to follow, though. More sideline and on the field fits followed. It didn't seem like it was a big deal, though, because 2017 was arguably Brown's best season. He was at the top of his game, and he was definitely the best receiver in the league at the time. going into the 2018 season, it seemed like Brown's workload would increase due to Le'Veon Bell sitting out for the season. And sure enough, it did. With 15 touchdowns and 1,200 plus yards, he was a force to be reckoned with. Something really stood out though. On September 17th, 2018, Ryan Scarpino, a former employee of the Steelers, tweeted, "AB needs to thank his lucky stars because he was drafted by a team that had Ben, and Ben got AB paid. You know darn well he wouldn't put up those numbers for other teams." Antonio followed that up by replying, "Trade me. Let's find out." And this seems like a significant statement by Brown. It showed that he wasn't opposed to getting out of the Steelers organization in any way. And to me, it also showed maybe he wanted out anyways. Thanks for watching part one. I really appreciate it. And, go check out part two on Broshmo's channel. But there's just something that I wanted to touch on before I ended this video. Like many others, I too believe that Antonio Brown is suffering from early stages of CTE. CTE is a neurodegenerative disease among athletes that is caused by repeated head injuries. It can make a person have mood swings, aggression, thinking problems, behavioral problems, dementia, depression, and suicidal behavior. I did a research paper on CTE in football for a class I had last semester, and it's crazy how serious the repercussions are.
Was talking on the sideline the whole time, it seemed like, to Vontez Perfect, and yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
Brown is still down.
That's, of course, flagrant.
Out of control.
Out of control. It's going to be everything. That's going to be suspension, fine.
Now, as you just saw in the video, I believe for Antonio Brown, his problems date back to January 10th, 2016. The Steelers were meeting the Bengals in the AFC wildcard round of the playoffs. Brown was thrown an incomplete pass in tight one-on-one coverage, and about a second after, Vontez Burfict came in and he just made an uncalled for late helmet-to-helmet hit. After this, I believe Antonio Brown changed for the worst. I wished he would get checked out, treated, or something. Because as much as I don't like the guy, I don't want him to suffer from something so horrible. CTE is not something to be taken lightly, and neither are any head-related injuries. I'm going to leave a link in the description below, and it has a file of my research paper I wrote on the issue, in case you'd like to know a little more about it. But as for now, thank you so much for watching part one of Antonio Brown's Antics, the Timeline. If you'd like to see part two, go check it out on Broshmo's channel. While you're at it, go give him some love and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on that notification bell so you can be the first to view my new videos. Like, comment what you thought or suggestions if you have any. Share, and most importantly, God bless you and thanks for watching. Ian Fleischman of 319 Sports, signing out.